following program was provided by an independent producer solely responsible for its content. The opinions expressed do not necessarily represent the views of this station, its staff, board of directors, or underwriters.
My name is Jasmine, and I am a recovering drug addict.
My name is Richie Farrell, aka the Old White Junkie.
And we are your hosts for Exit Team Nashua.
Our mission is to bring recovery into the living room.
Last year, over 72,000 Americans died of an accidental overdose.
That's almost 200 Americans every single day.
We will bring you guests with real-life experiences with addiction and recovery. Welcome to Exit Team Nashua. Hi, welcome to Exit Team Nashua. My name is Jasmine, and I am your host. Here on Exit Team, we take people with real-life recovery stories, people who have resources for anyone struggling with recovery, any kind of substance use disorder, trauma, you name it. And the goal here is to bring those resources and that hope and that education right into your living room. So today, I am joined by a dear friend. Hello, sir.
Hi.
How are you?
I'm well, Jazz.
Who are you?
I am Phil Spaguolo.
How do you say it?
Spaguolo.
I always like Phil Spag.
Yeah, that's close enough.
Okay. All right. Cool. What's going on?
Yeah, a lot actually, but some good, some bad, right? As you know, but the fight continues. It's. I spent the afternoon in Concord today at the State House. One of the candidates filed for her run in the primary, and got a chance to talk to her one-on-one about, Michael. As you know, what happened with that, and so it was a good opportunity that I took to talk to her about that. But things are moving along in other areas. And just trying to keep this train rolling, right? Like we want to try and save as many as we can, and unfortunately, we can't save them all.
Okay, all right. So you're a person in recovery.
I am.
You are. You have sober homes.
I do.
New Life Recovery Homes.
Correct.
Located in Laconia, New Hampshire. What else do you have going on?
I am running for state senate.
What?
Yeah, I know. Who would have thought?
Are you sure?
Yeah, I'm committed now, so
Okay.
No backing out. But
Okay.
yeah, as you know, I served in the House for a short time that I won in the special election, and just seeing what's going on nationally and locally. We continue to lose people at an unprecedented rate, and I just wanted to make sure that I was doing everything that I could to make a difference. So
yeah. All right. So what are some of the things that you do to offer services, bring education, resources for people?
Yeah. So we have the sober houses, which are a safe place for guys to come after treatment or getting out of jail. We try to provide a safe environment, a supportive environment for them to transition from those places back into society. We help them get employed, and we hold them accountable. And that's pretty much what we do with the sober houses. So as a result of my business partner and my longtime friend, who was also in recovery, passed away a week ago, this past Tuesday, from an accidental overdose. And as horrible as that was, something really good has come about from this. His sister started a fund for our sober house in an effort to be able to help more guys. Because as you know, one of the biggest hurdles to these guys getting into sober living is money, right? There's some very small scholarship programs out there that really struggle to stay funded throughout the year and to help, and what they can help with is not really very much. And so a lot of sober house owners, or I'm going to speak for myself, as a sober house owner, I would take on that financial burden myself. if I really felt like somebody was serious and they really wanted to come to sober living, it wasn't predicated on whether or not they could have had any money to come. It was their desire to do better in life. And some months that made operating very difficult. And anyways, long story short, his sister and his parents came up with an idea to ask for donations to our sober house rather than flowers or whatever. And I was optimistic, but I wasn't really optimistic that it was going to generate a lot of money. But this thing has taken on a life of itself.
It's amazing.
And
I have
really,
goosebumps.
the generosity of people has been amazing. I've had people reach out to me on a regular basis. They started a GoFundMe page, which took on a life of its own. And then I've been getting phone calls throughout the week of people just wanting to help in any way that they can.
Mm-hmm.
And it's really it's exciting. It's bittersweet, right? I had to lose my best friend and my business partner for this to happen, but at least something good is coming out of it.
He lives
And
on.
He lives on through this, and we're going to start a charitable foundation in his name to help people and to get into other sober houses, not just ours.
So
And that's the plan with this situation. But generosity of people has just been phenomenal, really. And it just goes to speak to the fact that people really do want to help, right? Like they want to feel empowered, because there aren't many people that I meet on a daily basis that haven't been touched by this in some way, and many of them have lost loved ones, and they tell me that all the time.
So I last Friday went to a fundraiser. I actually went to two fundraisers, like charity events, I should say. They weren't really fundraisers. And I met some wonderful people that I'd like to put you in contact with.
That would be awesome.
Because they put on these very large fundraisers, and they raise all this money, and they do all this awareness to donate it to people like yourself that are doing something to help others. And I was blown, I've had the honor and privilege of attending a lot of different charity events, and I was just blown away by this particular one that I had gone to last Friday, and how genuine the people were, and how passionate they were, and how much money they raised. I was like, what, are you kidding me? That was amazing. But just how, all the programs, so they don't keep the money. They raise all this money and they donate it out to nonprofits or anyone that is, doing anything to help people. And I was amazed by some of the programs that they were working with, and, different people that they had introduced me to. I met this woman from, I think it's Newburyport, and she has something called the Pelican Fund. And I don't know if you've ever heard of it. And so they put the money up to get people into sober living. And so, the sober living has to be an accountable sober living, and it has to be a 12-step sober living. And the individual that they're going to pay for to go on to sober living has to be someone that, for them, what they choose is abstinence-based,
right?
Is what they choose to fund. But it was just so amazing. And so right now they have 63. They call them kids because they're kids. Right now they have 63 kids that they that they're working with, and they don't just place them into sober living. They follow them through. They help them get jobs. They, you know what I mean? Because when you had said that that's what you guys do at New Life, right? Because for me, when I first got sober, like, I was a career criminal. I had been in and out of jail. The only thing I knew how to do was like manipulate and scam people. And for me, I was drawn to the spiritual life. And so if I'm going to stay sober off of living spiritual principles, then I can't be doing these things anymore,
Well, I think that the biggest struggle for people in newly in recovery is that, like you said, like we come from so many different places, right? For me, I came out of jail, right? I know, imagine like a guy like me getting in jail.
What?
Right? What? But the truth is,
someone check his credentials. He did not come from jail.
That's where I came from, and not that I had spent long stretches of time there, but I had been in and out many times in my illustrious career. And, but, some people come from the streets. Some people, and look, you've met them in recovery. There are doctors and lawyers and police officers. I was in rehab with a judge one time, like all of those things, right? So we come from all of these different places, but the majority of what we're seeing today are guys in their 20s and early 30s who have spent most of their lives outside of society, right? Really never filled out a job application, really don't have any work history, maybe have a felony conviction or 10 on their record, maybe all of these things, right? So they're coming out already as an underdog, right? And the chance of succeeding in the future because of these things, right? And
Accompanied with all the self-defeating thoughts
all
that
the
come
self,
with that.
right?
Yeah.
And so it's important that we recognize this. And look, being in treatment is a great start, but that's all it is. You know as well as I do that the real work begins once you get out of treatment. And like, what are you afforded? The opportunities that you're afforded once you come out of treatment.
I love that you bring that up. So I work in treatment,
Yeah.
and so clients are constantly arguing with me. Well, like, why I can run groups. I've been to treatment 10 times and I don't need to go to further treatment. And I'm like, that's true. Like, you probably can run the groups. You probably know the literature better than I do, but like, you can't outsmart science, and the neurotransmitters in your brain don't even start repairing for most people until around 90 days sober. So what I'm trying to do is buy you some time because you have a brain that has the neural pathways, the habits are already formed. So you can sit here and look me dead in the eye and speak from your heart and tell me that you're going to do X, Y, and Z, but you can't choose the way that your brain works.
Right. Brain's been hijacked.
Yeah, that's right. And so, for many people, like, obviously, like, there's the physical dependency, right? But there's so much more underneath that, there's like, the emotional and for someone, I'll just speak on myself. So like, I'm a trauma survivor, and I started experiencing trauma pretty much essentially birth.
Right.
So like, my brain never even got an opportunity to fully develop. I was never in control of my decision making. And so people, you need time. You need time, you need safe, structured places to go. You need all these things implemented for you. And I'll speak for myself here again, with having a couple years removed from a substance doesn't mean that I'm cured.
No.
It doesn't at all.
Right.
Just because I'm here today doing a TV show on addiction doesn't mean that, like, 5 months, God willing, 5 months from now, I'll still be okay. But like, that depends on what I do, between now and those next 5 months. What am I going to do? How am I going to live my life? By the grace of God, I was blessed with a group of very strong women who just took me under their wing and showed me. If I didn't have them, I wouldn't be here.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that's what we're, seeing now is that, with just a little bit of support and a little bit of structure, people have a much better chance of, right? Like, I'm not going to sit here and preach to you and tell you that, I have all the answers and everything that we do at our sober house is perfect, because we're not perfect and we never will be. But
you're dealing with people, so you can't control them. And then you're also dealing with the disease.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So there's a lot of things that can happen in there.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But people need a place to start from. It's a starting point. And, and whatever that is, it doesn't have to be sober living. I'm not saying, all I'm saying is if they're going back to their old terrible situations, after 28 days in treatment, I don't care if it's their 10th time at that 20-day treatment, right?
Yeah.
And that's the problem that we look at this from society looks at this and says, oh, well, we gave you this opportunity to get better, and now you're not better? Like, what's going on? Right?
28 days, you're feeling good, and it gives you the illusion you're better.
Exactly.
That's it. You're not better after 28 days. Your brain hasn't even started yet. Like, maybe you're clearing up a little bit, but like, this thing has not even started healing yet.
No, and then there's all, like we talked about, the outside issues that we have to deal with, whether you're a convicted felon, right, in the state of New Hampshire. You have to check that box on the application. So more than likely, you're not even going to get an opportunity to sit face to face with somebody for a job. So your chances of getting a job are not that great. And then you've got, no job training, no work history,
no people skills,
no really interpersonal people skills, right? Like, so you have all these strikes against you. So what ends up happening if they don't have somebody there to encourage them and to give them the opportunity to make their lives better, they're going to end up back in the places that we know that people like us end up in without support, back in jail, back in treatment, or at the funeral home. Like there are no other places for people like us that don't have the ability or don't have the support that they need to then, progress in life. I was lucky in the respect that when I got out of jail, I still had a family that was willing to take another chance on me. Right. And, my mom let me come and live at her house. I got involved early on in some things in the community that gave me a sense of purpose that I had never felt before. That was the thing. If people always ask me, like, what's the difference between you and so? And I say there's two things. One was that from an early on in my recovery, I had some people that surrounded me and made me believe in myself, even when I didn't believe in myself. And I had the ability to get involved in this community organization that valued my opinion and gave me some sense of purpose, right? And that's the one pivotal thing that I can point to that changed everything about the way that I looked at life, was that some people finally valued my opinion, and I was doing something that was meaningful, right? And so, I think that people are just looking for that one little spark in their lives that can make them feel like that they can be part of, because we feel separated from everybody when we're in active addiction. Even with people that we know that love us, we still feel separate from them, right? And until we feel like we're part of, like, we don't really get better.
A very wise man told me very early in my recovery, I think I was just a few days sober, he said, join a cause and be passionate about
Absolutely.
it. Join in. And it just turns out that, like, the more I get sober, the more passionate I am and the more causes that I join, and, like, the more that I'm out there, like, doing all these things. But he was right. That's what I needed. And
Absolutely.
At 4 months sober, at 4 months sober, you're still so vulnerable and you're still so fragile. And for many people, you haven't even come into your own to know who you really are. And at 4 months sober, a man hired me to work in his treatment center, and everybody in my life outside of that man was like, "What the hell? Like, that is stupid.
Right.
You are 4 months old. You don't have the skills for this. You are going to relapse. You are going to die. Your life is on this man's hand." Like, people were angry.
Mm-hmm.
What happened, though, and I would never recommend hiring someone to work in treatment at 4 months sober ever, especially, like, but what happened was that was what I needed.
Mm-hmm.
I needed someone to just believe in me enough to just give me that little bit. And, when that man did that for me, I blossomed and flourished with his company, and I blossomed and flourished as a woman. And it was just like, in that moment of him believing in me enough to give me that chance, I have been able to grow into the woman that I am today.
And it's an amazing woman. I have watched you, Jasmine, and I think you're the one person that is involved in more things than I am. So I can always, like, look at you and, like, well, at least she's crazier than I am.
Yeah, I know, right? We had a leadership meeting today at work, and they were, like, talking about, like, well, like, maybe we should, like, know if people are normal or not. And I was like, well, or do any of us qualify as normal? Because I'm not.
Certainly not.
Yeah.
But thank God for that too, right? Just I've watched what you've done. I've watched the woman that you've become, and I'm proud to call you a friend. But
you.
more than that, like, I've seen the lives that you've helped to change, and that's really what this all boils down to. This isn't about notoriety. This isn't about financial gain or any of that stuff. What this is about is saving people's lives.
Right.
Right. My friend Michael, who at 33 years old, from the outside had every reason to live and to prosper and all of those things. And the two questions that I get asked the most by people about this situation is, number one, why, right? Why did this happen? And two, what if? What if I had done more? What if we had, been, paid attention better? What if we had, what if?
Can't control people.
You can't. And there's no explaining why in that very moment he decided that, he was going to either try it one more time or get away with it one more time or whatever the case was, right? Like the truth is that, knowing him as well as I knew him and having been through the good and the bad with him, I know in my heart of hearts, he did not set out to die that day, right? I had just had breakfast with him a few days earlier. He was happier and healthier than I had ever seen him. But it just goes to prove that this disease is so complex. And the problem that, as I see it, Jasmine, and I'm a huge, I'm very vocal about the stigma that surrounds addiction. I think that what's more deadly than the actual drugs that are on the street is the stigma and the judgment and all of those things that we get from other people that don't understand this. That's what kills more people than the actual drugs. The drugs may be the means to an end, but what the reason is that this happens so frequently and happened over 70,000 times last year is because we still look at this as a moral issue. And, through all of this, like I said, some good things have come about from this. The generosity of those people who have donated to this fund, but also it has reinvigorated me into speaking out even more about this issue and
Good to
making
know.
sure that people understand that, a simple word like junkie could put somebody's father, son, brother, sister, wife, whatever, in the ground.
It's
Right.
funny that you bring that up. So yesterday I spoke at a forum it was like 288 high school students. And before we went on, they talked about like the importance of words and like make sure to like not call someone a drug junkie, drug addict, but to call them, people with substance use disorder. And I was like, you can call me anything. Like
Right.
to me, there is no. And the woman looked at me and she said, yeah, but what about when you were active? And I stopped.
There's the difference.
And I thought about it and I was like, oh my God, yeah. If when I, like today I'm free, I don't care like what you call
Sure,
me. To me,
sure.
today, like,
Well, our good friend calls himself the
Right,
old white
yeah,
junkie, right?
but
That
it-
doesn't offend me in any way.
yeah, but if
Right.
I just like, I was really taken back yesterday because I had never stopped and thought about like, if you had said that to me 4 years ago, how what that would do to me. And like, would that be my
Absolutely.
breaking point? And I was blown away and I was like, oh my God, I'm going to be more careful with my verbiage now. Yeah.
Absolutely. And that's, that's the thing, right? Because we already feel nobody can feel or condemn us as much as we condemn ourselves
Right.
when we're out there, right? This is the other thing that I try to explain to people is that nobody chooses to be a drug addict. Nobody that I've met so far in the thousands of people that I've met that have suffered from this have said, yeah, I really wanted to achieve that, being addicted to drugs. Nobody. Right? Like this is a slow progression that we started out innocently that ended up in this bad place. And, it just is really important to understand that, people first of all, don't choose there, but more importantly, like we beat ourselves up more than anybody could ever beat ourselves up. The negative self-talk that we have, that internal dialogue that we have is so self-defeating. But as soon as we hear somebody else say it, it crushes us.
Yeah.
It crushes us.
So, I was like, when I left that forum yesterday, I was inspired to write a blog. I love blogging. And I was gonna like the starting title was gonna be, I am not my thoughts. I am not others' opinions. I am not judgment. I am not shame. Because like everything that we're talking about right now, like it just like really stirred something up inside of me yesterday to be like, oh wow, like if you called me a junkie 4 years ago, like I would have took that on. I would have taken what your like opinion of me on and lived that out to be my truth,
Right.
And today, today sometimes I still am impressionable around others, but for the most part, I have the ability to remain authentic to self, but it
Right.
took a lot of work to do that.
Absolutely. Somebody asked me the other day, they said, do you think maybe you shouldn't talk so much about the fact that you're in recovery if you're running for Senate? And
I was
just
like,
and it was interesting because I had never
we have a
even
genocide
considered
going
it,
on.
right?
Are you kidding me? This makes you useful and unique.
And I was really taken back. But, look, in some ways I understand it, right? Because conventionally, people aren't very honest about their past, especially when they're running for office, right? It's like we try to sugarcoat everything that we've done in the past, and we try to, but on this mission to make people see two things. One is that we're not all, stereotypical what theater projects us to be, or what the negative talk that you hear from ignorant people, like all of those things. That like I'm a strong, capable, intelligent man who can accomplish anything that he sets his mind to, just like anybody else. Just because I suffered from that doesn't mean that I can't accomplish things in my life. So, like, proving to the naysayers, so to speak, but more importantly, proving to the people that are out there suffering still, that I'm a guy that got out of jail less than 4 years ago and have accomplished what I've accomplished, and continue to put myself out there in the public to prove to people that those things are possible. And, it's so when that person asked me that question, it was like I almost laughed because it seemed so ridiculous to
I
me that they would be
probably would have. I did
asking
laugh
me
when you
that
said
question,
it.
right?
Yeah.
But then it just also, what it did was it said to me that people just don't, there are so many people that just don't understand, right? That they get uncomfortable by me saying that, hey, I'm a recovering heroin addict who spent time in jail, who is serving or served in public office and is now running for state senate. That makes them uncomfortable.
Right.
And that's exactly the effect that I want to have on people, because if they're not uncomfortable, then there's a problem, right? Like,
we can keep just ignoring it and, like,
Right.
you know what I mean, pretending that this isn't going on.
Right.
Yeah, absolutely. People need to get uncomfortable. Everyone has to get uncomfortable. If you want things to change, the only way to change it is through being uncomfortable, because we've got to do something different, which is just naturally uncomfortable.
Exactly. And it creates the conversations that need to happen, right? Not lip service, because there's been years and years of lip service around this, but there's been very little real conversation on how to better affect what's happening in this area.
For anyone watching that wants to donate to the charitable cause, how do we find that?
So New Life Recovery, we have a Facebook page, website. All of our information is on there. They can reach us through there. There is a GoFundMe page that was set up under Michael Lannon by his sister Kelly. And yeah, I mean, they can reach out to me. My phone number is, if they're looking for help, not just to send money, but 603-273-8442. Anybody that's struggling and needs somebody to talk to or wants some help, I'm always available. So
Please call Phil at 2:30 in the morning.
anytime. This won't be the first time.
I can't believe it's over.
Yeah, I know.
It was
Awesome.
great. Thank you for
really
coming
great.
on.
It went by so fast.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone, for watching. Thank you for sharing your time with us. Please reach out to Phil. Any questions, concerns, you have anyone struggling, you need guidance. He has all the insights, and he's willing to be a tool for you. Thank you, guys.
The preceding program was provided by an independent producer solely responsible for its content. The opinions expressed do not necessarily represent the views of this station, its staff, board of directors, or underwriters.